back to Begging for Billionaires. First of all, why the title, Begging for Billionaires?
Begging for Billionaires is exactly what we're talking about, is these giant corporations coming in, like developers, and a lot of these developers are millionaires or billionaires that go around the country preying on government to use eminent domain and giant tax breaks to build the development, and it's billionaires basically begging for tax breaks and money and land, you know, and I think it's a perfect title.
But you know, this is one of those issues that those of us who believe in property rights, you would think that we would be loaded with great media. You think we'd be loaded with lots of sympathy because people hate big corporations. You can hear it all the time. We hate big corporations. And those are the bad guys in this play. And here are poor people who are losing their homes. But the problem is it's not a movement of poor people. It's not like sometimes in a bad educational fight, there might be a terrible school district and parents. There might be thousands of parents that combine together. Here it's just 1 and 2, 2 and 3 folks, and it's hard for them to be able to get together and find each other.
The tide is turning. Part of the problem with property rights is that it's one property owner, maybe 10, or a community of 20. Not enough people and not enough time to sustain an ongoing movement. Whereas you have a school that has 28 kids, right, you know, 28 sets of parents. But that's changing, especially as we see that RTD has these long-term 10 and 15-year light rail expansion projects. And in fact, we've obtained copies of RTD talking points at a taxpayer-funded transit conference last summer in San Francisco, where RTD's, one of the RTD directors is out there saying, look, you have got to be prepared for this grassroots revolution that is going on. So the tide is turning, and it's grassroots organizations here locally in Colorado. It's national groups like the Institute for Justice, which he was talking about. And there's a real effort to educate people and also to provide the resources to fund these lawsuits that can run up into the millions of dollars for larger properties.
And it's tough because you know, what little mom and pop is going to take on Walmart or take on RTD?
Well, it's something I said earlier on the radio show today, is what's happened is a lot of times they go into low-income families areas, and of course these low-income families have never had anything or dealt with anything like this. They're not equipped to fight a developer who has lawyers, 4 or 5 lawyers, a PR department, you know, to fight. And of course the media, what happens with the media, and we talk about this in the documentary, is they demonize the other side. Because what happens is they always go to the side where there's a lot of money. And they demonize the little business owner, or they demonize, and that's what happened with Penner and Paul Thomas, who tried to fight. The media demonized them.
And here in Colorado, what we are trying to do right now aggressively every day at the Property Rights Project is provide information. Information is the key. For so many of the property owners who are faced with condemnation notices, whether it's justified or not, their first and only contact often with an attorney is when it's somebody from RTD in a suit who walks up and says, we'll take care of you. Maybe RTD in many cases does take care of people, but what we've seen in story after story after story is there's a lack of information. And so what we want people to do is encourage themselves, or to encourage people to become educated themselves. Go and sit down with a lawyer for an hour and say, I will give you $200 if it's the last $200 in my bank account, so you can tell me what my rights are. Because without the Independence Institute, and this isn't an infomercial certainly, but the other side has way more money. They have endless taxpayer revenue to fund their lobbying efforts, and they also have the votes. So we need to encourage people to come forward and encourage people also that it's not a done deal in all cases. That there are many cases, anecdotes mind you, where people can come forward and fight back.
I want to say one thing to that. Penelope Marsh says in a documentary.
This is one of the families.
Yeah, this is one of the family in Sugar Creek, Missouri. She says that don't think that you can't beat City Hall. You can. And I think that's a point that you can beat City Hall.
In Begging for Billionaires, is this surrounding one project and the families that are in it?
No, it's not just one project. It's throughout the state of Missouri. It goes from Kansas, Missouri, to Sugar Creek, Missouri, to Arnold, to St. Louis, to Richmond Heights, which was the first black community in St. Louis, which they're going to bulldoze these beautiful homes, which I saw, to build a giant sports stadium.
So tell me about some of these people we're about ready to meet. We'll play a few moments of this film. Who are these people?
These are individual people. One of them is Dr. Dukakis, who actually has a dentist's office. They built a development around him, and then they started harassing him by building mounds of dirt. They dug up his driveway so his clients could not come to his dentist's office. They harassed him.
Who's they in this?
The developer.
The developer who wanted his property.
Yeah. THF, which is To Have Fun, was the name of the developer, which he didn't think was too funny, but that's the name of the development.
What is it that To Have Fun wanted to build? What is it they wanted?
They wanted his property to build restaurants because he was on the edge of the development. They wanted to do restaurants and small retail.
And he was the last property guy to hold out. He didn't want to lose where he does his business.
Yeah, he went all the way to the Missouri Supreme Court and lost, and in May he settled with them and moved.
And what is it that he lost? I mean, I guess what I'm asking here is...
He lost his dentist's office.
I understand that. What I'm trying to understand is that he lost through eminent domain.
Yeah.
So that in Missouri, this man's private dental office that he owned was taken away by the city.
Yeah.
And handed over to this corporation called To Have Fun so that they could put in restaurants.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Just to briefly add to that with what we've got in Colorado, you used to be able to take one restaurant to put in another restaurant that could generate more tax revenue. Today, at least under the law, you are not allowed to do that unless there's a public nuisance, blight, or some other type of justification. That doesn't mean, however, that local governments and developers aren't getting creative.
Give me one more story that we might see in this movie.
And the other story, my other favorite story on there is Jim Rue. Jim Rue is a minister who loves low-income housing. Some of his people had lost their property, moved to another area which he had. Then they were trying to take that property. And one of the pictures you will see on here is this giant mural that he did. The mural overlooks 4 highways intersecting into downtown St. Louis. Well, the redevelopment agency went nuts and basically said, you can't have that mural up there. You have to take it down or we'll come and take it down. I said, Jim, that's private property, called the sheriff's department. Well, he actually filed a federal lawsuit with IJ and won, and the federal judge just chastised the redevelopment agency. You have no authority to tell him to take down that mural. Amazing. But it was the whole thing that Jim's going through is that he keeps losing property because it's low income property, and they want to build shopping centers and $1 million condos.
And we see people in Colorado that bought right adjacent to RTD rail lines thinking they could benefit by redeveloping adjacent to these lines, and now they're being condemned. So it's a problem. It's a big problem.
It's a golden rule. He who has the gold wins. He who has the gold makes the rules. Let's take a look at this clip. This is from Begging for Billionaires.
When people hear the word eminent domain, it's understood that they don't have the assets to fight it. So there were many disgruntled homeowners and business owners, but didn't have the means to conduct a defense in behalf of their property.
We had gotten notices from the city and the City Planning Commission that there's going to be a hearing about our property to take it away.
You know, once they put the gun on me, we didn't have a choice. Because, you know, the law is on their side, not our side. Now they have a contract on our home.
So just imagine if every tree, every view, every familiar touch that your family had ever known for 80 years was going to be destroyed by a developer for a planned project.
You simply couldn't stop it. We couldn't stop it. And it didn't matter how beneficial and substantial and established our presence was, we could not stop it.
Take what's